Most developers wait too long to think about performance, and by the time they do, fixing it becomes a nightmare. In this video, we're talking about how to start profiling the right way. Not after your game is already broken, but from day one. Welcome to 100 Tips in Unity. This is episode 5. Here's the deal. You don't need to stress about optimization early on. Your main focus should be finishing the game, not overthinking tiny performance details. But that doesn't mean you should ignore performance completely. Instead, build your game with optimization in mind. For example, if you're making an open world game, think about scene streaming or splitting the world into chunks. If your game has detailed models, plan for LODs or level of detail meshes so that distant objects don't waste performance. If you have a lot of objects spawning, consider object pooling instead of constant instantiation. These small decisions early on will save you from massive headaches later. Alright, so how do you actually keep your game running smoothly? You start by setting a performance budget. Every platform has a frame target. For PC and consoles, I recommend 60 FPS. For 60 FPS, it is going to be 16.67 milliseconds per frame. For mobile games, I recommend 30 or 60 FPS. For VR games, I highly recommend a very high FPS, which is around 11.11 milliseconds to 8.33 milliseconds per frame, because motion sickness is a big thing in VR and you need high frame time. By the way, these values are the frame times that you find in the profiler. So why does this matter? Because everything, your physics, your rendering, AI, all of these has to fit within that frame time budget. Now let's open the Unity profiler. To open the profiler, we go to Window, Analysis, Profiler, or press Ctrl 7 on the keyboard. We go to Profile Modules and then make sure to enable Highlights. And once we have the Highlights module, there is a section here called Target Frame Time. You can click on this and you can set your custom frame time here. And I recommend setting it to 60. Let's change it to 30 and see what happens. Whenever you click on the highlights module, it is going to show your current frames per second and your target budget, which is nice. And this allows you to check if you are under the budget or not. So highlights module is very good. Another great habit, add these frame time budgets to your game design document and even your version control commit messages. Also, most people wait until performance becomes a problem before they even open the profiler. But here's the thing, profiling early saves hours and hours of work later. Especially if you're building a commercial game, this is important. Every time you add a new feature, check its impact. Added a new enemy, see how much CPU it's using. Created a custom shader, make sure it's not destroying your GPU. If you do this as you build the game, you'll catch bottlenecks before they ruin the game. Okay, one of the biggest mistakes developers make is that they only test on their high-end PC. Just because your game runs well on a RTX 4090 doesn't mean that it'll work on a mid-range laptop. You need to test on the weakest hardware that you plan to support as early as possible. And thermal throttling is also a real thing. Your game might start smooth, but it will slow down as the device heats up. It's especially a problem in mobile. We talked about thermal throttling in this video and how you can overcome it. So make sure to check it out if it's something that interests you. Also, only build for platforms that you can actually test on. If you don't have a Mac, then don't waste time making a Mac build. Don't blindly assume that it will run well. You will face a lot of problems specific to platforms that you're going to build. Okay, let's quickly go over some key stats that you may want to look into in the Unity profiler. First up, in the CPU usage module, take a look at the frame time. This frame currently takes 1.97 milliseconds, and this is a blank project, which means even if there is nothing, there is a little bit of overhead. It's not a lot, but there are things running in the background. So keep a note of this. This is the most important thing. You can go to highlights module and it will give you whether it is the CPU or it is the GPU that is taking more time. Okay. Next, click on the rendering module and here have a note of the number of draw calls and the number of batches in your game. Batches are like a group of objects that needs to be rendered, and raw call is simply a call made by the CPU to tell the GPU, hey, you need to render these things. And you want them to be as low as possible. For mobile, I recommend not going above 1000. Keep a look at the poly count. Currently, it is rendering 1.7k triangles on an empty scene. For mobile games, I recommend keeping it under 300k or something like that. There are no fixed values that you should stick to, but you should test and see if these are the reasons your game is lagging. Also, under memory, you don't have to do this very often, but if you click on memory, there is GC allocated in frame. This could happen if you are destroying too many objects in one frame. These are like unallocated garbage memory. So you need to keep a look into that and see if something is triggering a lot of GC allocation. Knowing these basics will help you fix performance issues faster. But profiling isn't just opening the profiler and hitting play. You actually need a process. Here's the 7-step method that I always use. Hit play and look for a performance spike. Click on the spike to investigate. Find the most expensive task in the hierarchy. Set it to related data to identify the game object if any. Use AI tools like Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT to understand the issue. You then implement the necessary changes. And finally, you profile again to see if it improved. This is just a quick overview. I've got a full breakdown of this process in another video, so check the link in the top right or the link in the description. Here's a big one. Don't trust the editor. Unity's editor isn't real performance. It has extra debugging overhead, so the FPS you see in the play mode is not accurate. Instead, whenever you implement a new feature, you always test on a development build. You can open build profiles and you simply hit development build and make sure to auto connect profiler to connect your build to Unity's profiler. Now you're getting numbers from an actual build. Alright, let's quickly recap what we covered. Don't stress about optimization too early, just build with performance in mind. Set a performance budget and track frame times from the start. Profile early and often to avoid last-minute panic. Test on the weakest hardware you support, and don't target platforms you can't test on. Understand basic performance metrics so you know what's slowing your game down. Follow the 7-step profiling process to catch the issues efficiently, and always test using development builds, not just the editor. So, if your game starts lagging, don't panic. 90% of the time, the solution is there inside the profiler. Alright, if this video was helpful, drop a like. And let me know in the comments what's the worst performance issues that you have had in your game, or if there's anything crazy that's going on. And hey, how did you fix it if you did? I think people might gain a lot of insight from those. And you don't have to stick to Unity Engine even if you're using Unreal or Godot or whatever. Feel free to talk about anything that has broken your game. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.